Welcome to Queers and Quills, the official podcast. I'm audiobook narrator Kirt Graves. Every episode, I invite an attending author or narrator to join me for a one-on-one conversation about their lives and their art, so attendees and readers from across the world can get to know them not only as professionals, but as people. Joining me today is Dallas Smith. Dallas Smith is a queer, neurodivergent, and disabled author of swoony, smart, and sincere romance. A former forensic scientist, Dallas has always loved to tell stories, whether through science and evidence, something we don't have enough of these days. On the stage in her community theater, I love some community theater rep, or now as a romance author. She strives to write the type of stories she wants to read, ones in which anyone can see a part of themselves represented. Welcome to the podcast, Dallas.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, quite a few things revealed there. A former forensic scientist, a community theater member, and now an author. So tell me more about that journey. How did you go from little person to grown-ass adult author? That sounds like a lot of stuff happened in between.
It did. I am not one of those authors who always knew they wanted to be an author. When I was 10, I watched CSI for the first time and absolutely fell in love with forensic science and worked my entire life towards that goal. Finally got my dream job at the NYPD in their crime lab, which was great because they didn't require a master's degree, and I didn't want a master's degree. And then I found out that I am allergic to marijuana, and that was my job, was analyzing drugs, and you can't be quite literally allergic to your job. So unfortunately, I had to leave.
Metaphorically is fine.
Metaphorically is fine. Yeah, like broke out into
no.
hives and everything. It's awful.
No.
And so it was kind of like a quarter life crisis, so to speak, of like, all right,
where do I
go now?
We're learning quite a bit about you in the fact that you were not exposed to any marijuana until you were working in an NYPD crime lab.
I was not, because I knew I wanted to be a forensic scientist, and I didn't want to have to like go through this whole thing of like drug testing and all of this stuff. So thankfully I'd never tried it, or else, I might have had to get taken to a hospital.
Right.
But so quarter life crisis, and was just trying to figure out like, where do I go from here? What do I do now? And I remember as a kid trying to write a book once. I got like one chapter in, and then I have ADHD, so I forgot. And so I was like, all right, let me give this a shot. I wrote my first book, which will never see the light of day. It's horrible. And definitely not really on brand with what I write now. And then the pandemic hit, and I started writing a lot of fan fiction. And then I started to come to kind of my realization that I'm bisexual, and then everything turned out from there.
Everything turned out from there. So what was that experience like, that finally writing something that it's like, okay, this is the thing I'm going to put out in the world?
It was interesting. My debut, Queried Sick, was the first thing that I really wrote to try to explore what I was trying to figure out about myself, because I was already engaged to my now husband. I'd only ever dated men. And so it was like, but there's this like inkling in the back of my brain that like something is there. And it got to a point where it was kind of unignorable. And so I read Red, White, and Royal Blue and was like, oh, okay. Things are starting to make sense.
Yeah.
And it was also during the pandemic, and so I had a lot to process with that as well. Being just stuck. So I wrote my first draft of Queried Sick, which is set during the pandemic, and it's about two bisexual people, and that was just my way of exploring who I was and who I was realizing that I am. And I never really intended on publishing it, because the format of it was mostly text messages and emails, and I just didn't think that it really had a place in publishing. But the longer that it sat written, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it, it was like, I think I need to do something with this.
Yeah.
And because it was so close to me, I didn't want to go the traditional publishing route and possibly have things diluted or not be able to tell it exactly how I want to tell it, since it was me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really interesting too, because like text message emails, it's the new epistolary novel.
Yeah.
To be able to tell a story that way. Which, you know, if you think of it as just, these are new letters. This used to be a letter, and now we text and we send emails, and you can fully live a life and tell a story through these communications.
Yeah. And I love writing dialogue. And so writing text messages, it's just pure dialogue.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So what was the reception like for that first book?
I think it was pretty good. Since I'm self-published, figuring things out as I go, making mistakes and learning from them.
That's part of the journey, right?
Yeah. It's part of the journey. Surprisingly, my friends and family were really receptive of it. And I hadn't really expected that. I had to partially come out, even though I'd been married at this point. My wedding was in 2021. Well, 2020, we had the COVID wedding, and then the big
reception.
So it was a process of coming out and not really sure how that was going to be received, seeing as I'm married. But being married doesn't affect your sexuality. You're still bisexual. So it was kind of that process of coming out first and then being like, I'm writing a book. It's a romance. It's a queer romance. And changing the perceptive of that people had of me before, which is like the scientist girl, to this creative person.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting that your instinct was to come out first. You know, because it doesn't have to be that. Plenty of people have a journey that takes a different route, and whatever somebody's coming out journey is fine, even if that means never coming out. But it's interesting that was your instinct to say, I'm going to do that first and have this conversation with my family, and then we can talk about this book I wrote.
Yeah, and my parents had knew I was writing fan fiction and whatnot, and they knew that I was kind of leaning towards this. And I think it probably wasn't too much of a shock when I came out of just the reaction I got from some people were like, yeah, I know.
That's always a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Why didn't you tell me?
I always kind of suspected. It's like, what?
This is brand new information. But I've seen the reception of some authors who are perceived as straight writing queer romance, and them going through this horrible thing of people being like, well, you're straight. Why are you in this space? And as a neurodivergent person, I've always felt slightly out of place. So I didn't want to feel out of place in this community writing it. I wanted to be able to say out loud, I am a member of this space, whether you see me as one or not. And I'm putting myself here.
That's really great. And I just personally would love to hear a little bit about your community theater background, because I'm a theater guy. I'm currently where I live, that is my outlet for doing theater, is community theater. We don't have any professional theater in the area. So I'm just an advocate for it, and I'd love to hear more about that.
I really love community theater. I don't do as much of it anymore. I moved away from the theater that I had participated in, and then now I've got a full-time job and I'm an author, and so there's just not enough hours in the day. But I started doing theater in high school, and my parents are both also in theater, and so my dad helped build the sets, my mom did the costumes, and so it just kind of came out from there. And at first I was on the stage because I played guitar, I liked to sing, and then after I stepped away from the stage, I realized, I don't really like being on the stage. I want to kind of be behind the scenes. I think for me, being on the stage was helping me mask. As
Yeah.
neurodivergent, it was like teaching me like, okay, here's how I'm supposed to act in situations. And so once I got back from college, I moved in with my parents again for a little bit and got back to theater. And I was mostly doing painting at that point, which was great. Just get
Oh,
to put on a playlist, I get to
yeah.
paint a set, and then I don't have to show up after that. Like the set's done. I go see it once, and then I get to go do my other things that I like to do.
Right? Yeah, I am obsessed with scenery painting TikTok. I don't know if you've followed
I've been
like
on and off of it.
I just dig it because it is one area of theater that I've helped out with sometimes, and I definitely would love to learn more. But like I like my path has just taken me another direction. So like I was on stage for a long time, now I direct. But like I also think I'd really enjoy paint because I like painting like a house. So like I love the actual tactileness and like how satisfactory it is to put paint on something and see it transform. And I'd love to learn more of the techniques of how like you then, especially in theater, like make it look like something else with like sneaky little tricks. And it doesn't
That's
have to
my favorite thing to do.
Right.
And like I learned
it just has to look good from like 50 feet away. So it doesn't have to be perfect up front, you know?
it's the 30-foot rule. I like always have to remind myself of that when I'm painting. It's like, oh, this looks terrible. Oh, wait, no, step back. Step back.
Back up.
Oh, okay, this looks great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I learned to wood grain once.
Yep.
And it was like it looked like it would be the hardest technique ever. But when I learned how to do it, I'm like, this is surprisingly easy.
Right. Like that's it. Yeah.
This is exactly.
it. Yeah. Exactly. I've done that too. Because it is an area where I dabbled. I don't know. There's a metaphor in there somewhere about being able to take something and making it look really beautiful from 30 feet away and accepting it for what it is, you know?
There probably is.
Yeah. We'll leave that for another time. Back to the writing portion. I would love to know more about what it is that has inspired you. You mentioned Casey McQuiston's Red, White, and Royal Blue. Are there any other books that have influenced you or like source material from when you were younger that has been influential for you?
I think one of the other authors that has really been influential on me is Chloe Leese. She writes disabled characters really well and just writes a lot of representation really well. And so when I was trying to like figure out where I was going with what my brand is, I really love the way that she tells stories. So she definitely is influential on me as well. And then just I kind of get inspiration from everywhere. Just like the people around me. I have like a running list of just things that I see and things that I want to include in my books because I really do want to include the diverse people. I want people to be able to see themselves in these books. And the reason that I really love writing romance is it's just so universal. And even if you're on the ace or aromantic spectrum, there is this core human desire to have a connection to another person.
Right.
And romance outside of even just the romantic partnership really like shows that. There's like the found family, there's the best friend, there's just these human connections that I really enjoy. And so any story that has that.
For sure. I think we do romance a disservice when we only think of it as a pairing. Because like you can have very romantic feelings towards somebody who you would never be in a romantic relationship with, but they can still be very strong and very deeply held feelings that connect you to a person, or it could be more than one person.
Yeah, and like I've always thought of soulmates as just being, it's not necessarily a romantic thing. It's just like this is the person that makes me better. And sometimes that can be just a best friend, or it's the romantic partner, or it's several people. And it's one of the themes that I carry through all my books is this idea of found family, which probably also comes from the fact that I was a military kid. And so we moved around a lot. and we had to like find family everywhere we went.
Yeah.
And so it's just that like human connection.
Yeah. I noticed on your website that you have playlists for your books. Is music something that inspires you?
Definitely. I almost always have music going on. It is partially like a coping mechanism for the ADHD. I can know how much time is passing if I'm listening to music. And also on the ADHD and kind of like autistic end of like not always being able to name my emotions. And music has always kind of helped me with that. It's like I don't necessarily know how I would explain how I'm feeling, but I listen to a song and it's like, okay, this is putting into words how I'm feeling about this thing. And it can kind of help me put context to events. And so I usually use music as a way to, like, as in my outlining process of like, this is the vibe.
Yeah. I also noticed, and I mentioned it earlier in your bio, one of the descriptors that you use for the stories you write is the word sincere. And I haven't seen that. Maybe I've seen it before, but then very rarely. So I'm curious about what it was about that as an intention that mattered to you.
I think for me, authenticity is really important. And I was trying to go with like the alliteration, which is where swoony, smart, and sincere came from. But it just, for me, the sincerity of it is just realness and telling things with intention and just trying to go at it with the most positive of intentions. And I may not always get it right, but I always try.
Yeah. Yeah, like a well-meaning character, I think, is somebody that folks can root for. Is what I think of when I saw the word sincere, and I was like, that's really interesting because again, it's just not something that's used often to describe a style of writing, and yet we know in romance you can certainly have characters who are less than sincere, have less than great intentions. In fact, sometimes that's the point. Sometimes that's where the drama comes from. Sometimes, and people love those types of stories too. And so it caught my eye that I was like, that's really interesting that somebody would make it very clear that like these stories are about well-meaning people who are not out to deceive or hurt or harm.
Yeah, I really like it's the coziness of it that is really my goal.
Coziness is a good one.
And so sincerity is coming from that.
I like that. So if somebody was coming to your work for the very first time, where would you want them to start?
This is a hard question, and it shouldn't be a hard question because I really only have 2 full-length books. But I've been thinking about this, and I want the answer to be my most recent full-length release, Bipartisan. I think it's my stronger work. It's definitely more like in tone, content-wise, like spiciness. It's a little bit spicier, which is kind of where my writing is leaning towards these days. But also I think Queered Sick is probably it's where I started. And so it really depends on like what vibe people are looking for.
Yep.
Like if you want something more just like insular and like very internal, Queered Sick, but Bipartisan has more of like an external plot and there's some more things going on. And so if you like a little bit more like plot focused work, then Bipartisan.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's a good way to help parse that. And I giggle because at this point I've asked so many authors that question and so many authors have been like, oh, it's hard. Because like if you like this, then it's that one. And it feels like I'm asking them to pick their favorite kid at this point. I was like, maybe I should stop asking authors that question, but it's in the outline, so here we are.
Yeah. I think, and actually, I really have no problem picking a favorite. I think my favorite is Bipartisan, but it was more fun. Like I was writing it and I had figured out who I am. And so I just got to have fun with it.
Yeah. Well, and you do hope to grow and, like you just said, learn more about who you are as an artist and a writer. And so, like, it makes sense that, like, with each book that comes, you'll be like, okay, now that's my favorite. It almost should be that way.
Yeah,
You know, because otherwise
definitely.
you're regressing, and nobody wants to feel like that. So, all right. Well, I have also invited you here to play a game. Are you ready for that?
Sure, let's go.
Okay. So, the rules of the game are simple. I have a deck of cards, and on each card is a question. The questions are aiming to learn more about you as a person. So, some are biographical, some are hypothetical, some are just plain silly. But I will not be picking which questions you're going to answer. Fate will. I will deal 3 cards every round, and you choose one. So, whatever card you pick, you're agreeing to answer. If
Okay.
a question comes along that you don't want to answer, you have 2 opportunities to switch things up. You can turn the tables on me one time, forcing me to answer the question, or you can also discard a personal question in favor of answering a more bookish question from the white deck. But then you're only dealt 1 card, and you're agreeing to answer that question. So, ready to play?
Yep. Let's go.
All right, here we go. Card 1, card 2, or card 3. What's one bad habit you're trying to get rid of?
That's a good question. I think I'm just going to go broad and say putting things off and like
Sure.
procrastination.
Good luck with that if you have ADHD. Yeah. Good luck with that. I hear you. I think that's a great answer. And yes, we should all take strides to procrastinate less. But as a fellow ADHD brainer, it's just not the way things work, is it?
It's not. And I think mostly the things that I'm trying to put off, like not put off, are things that I know are simple tasks. Like,
right. Yeah.
Like if I'm putting off a bigger thing, okay, like I can see where that instinct is coming from. But it's like if it's doing the dishes or calling to make a physical therapy appointment, which is my current task that I'm putting off, I like just need to do it, or at least schedule a time to do it.
Yeah. Well, see, but that introduces a whole nother level, which is having to pick up the phone and call somebody. No, thank you. Somebody make an app for that. I love that I can just set up appointments with my doctor through an app and I'd never have to talk to anybody.
Or at least fill out a form and then they call you.
Sure.
Like it's actually easier. Like,
or just text me. Just text me.
Yeah,
office.
texting is fine too.
Everybody's fine. But yeah, the dishes thing, see, that to me is on the cusp, because the thing I have tried really, really hard to put into practice is that if it will take me less than a minute, just do it. Because there are so many things that I would put off that would be like, pick up this thing and throw it in the garbage. And it's like, I'll get to it. And it's like, just do it literally right now. It will take less than a minute. And you will be happier for it. But
dishes, the thing that
can take a few minutes. And then it's like,
it can. Or, like, there's also the try not to put rules on a task. Like, why do you have to rinse the dishes before you put them in the dishwasher?
You don't,
just
actually.
Just run the dishwasher twice. There's no rule that says you can't.
Yeah. Right. Also, dishwashers are so much better than people think they are. I think our parents really screwed us on this because their dishwashers were not as powerful as they are now. You don't have to. So. You don't
My parents are dishwasher people. Like they don't hand wash anything.
Good. But like, hey, that's the way it should be. All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Let's go with 1.
Okay. Describe your best day ever.
My instinct is to describe the like ideal best day ever.
Yeah.
And
that works.
I know that that's not me. And so I think the best day ever, it would just be sleeping in until I am ready to wake up, but not in the like I'm chronically ill and I'm tired all the time way. Just like I sleep in, I wake up and I'm ready to be awake. And then I just like have a leisurely day. Like I read or like I go to bookstores, get to cuddle with my cats, and just kind of feel at peace and not have any expectations of what I need to do for a day.
Yeah.
And not feel that like external pressure of, oh, well, I need to be doing this, or, oh, the dishes need to be done, or like I'm behind on marketing and so I need to catch up on that. Just like my ideal day would just be I have either forgotten any of that exists,
Yeah.
which
Or it's caught up already, and
it's caught up,
and you're free.
or I have the self-discipline to ignore it.
Right. Yeah. I will say, being a self-employed person has a lot of challenges, but one of the perks is I haven't set an alarm in years. I just sleep until I'm ready to wake up, which sadly, the older I get is earlier than I want, but that's another discussion. Okay. Card 1, card 2, or card 3. What's the grossest thing you've ever seen someone do in public?
I lived in New York, and so that's that's a really long list. Honestly, just most of the New York subway.
Yeah. Yeah, if I had to answer that question, I would probably pick something from my New York trips as well.
I'm gonna try to phrase this in the least gross way. I worked a night shift when I was at the NYPD, and so I was taking the E train back at like midnight, and so it's usually some interesting experiences. And there once was a plastic bag of bodily fluid just like chilling. I'm like, this is gross.
Yep.
Why are people like this?
Some person did that.
Some person made a choice.
Yep. All kinds of humanity on this planet. You never know. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
1.
If you had someone following you around all the time, what would you have them do? Other than the dishes, apparently.
Probably just write everything down. Because I try my best to take notes of things and remember things, but it would really just be like write this down and remind me of it later.
Yep.
That would be the main thing.
Your own personal stenographer.
Yes.
Yes. Love it. All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
3.
Ooh, which talent would you most like to have?
I'd really like to be able to shoot a bow and arrow.
Ooh, I like that. You should do that. I believe in you. I think you can do that.
I would like to try, but I'm small and I like to joke I'm broken. I have to make light of it or else it's sad. So I'd probably need to use a kid-sized bow, but being able to like shoot a bow and arrow and like be Katniss, that kind of be kick-ass.
Not that being in a competition where you have to fight for your life part, but just being able to shoot the bow and arrow part. Yeah.
Just and being able to like just do cool things with that.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
2.
When you die, what do you want to be remembered for?
No. That's a hard question.
Some of them are, yeah.
I know. That's the game.
Yeah. Remember, you have 2 outs. You could use one of them if you don't want to answer that one.
Yeah, I think I might take an out on that one.
Okay. What is it going to be? Are you turning it around on me, or do you want the bookish question?
Go with the bookish question.
Okay. Just drawn from the top of the deck. Here we go. Ooh, okay. This could be controversial. Do you mark your books, aka highlighting, dog-earing pages, or so on, or do you prefer them pristine?
I'm an annotator. So I highlight and have no rhyme or reason for the highlighting. It's just like there's no like color coding or anything, at least not when I'm just reading. I have a podcast where I read through the Wheel of Time series, and so that is when my annotation has like purpose. Like I have different colored flags for different things because we're going to discuss it later. But yeah, I will mark up my books, but I won't dog ear.
Okay. That's a step too far.
That's a step too far. Like I'm not, and I don't like to break the spines either. Like I think I like the book to look pretty when it's closed, but if you open it, there's any sort of nonsense happening in there.
Yeah. Fair enough. From the outside, it has to be perfect.
Yes.
All right. I think we have. Oh, what is the name of your podcast if people want to look that up?
Not the beginning.
Okay. And you're doing the books for the Wheel of Time?
Yeah. So
wow. So that's a task.
It's my husband's favorite series, and I've never read it. And so we're reading through them, but epic fantasy is not really my genre. I struggle with reading it a lot. And so in between each book, I have him read a romance novel that we then discuss.
Ooh, nice. So a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, we have time for one more. Here we go. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
2.
Ooh, what is something you like that most people don't?
Trying to think. The first thing that comes to mind is probably like bad box mac and cheese.
Oh.
Like most people don't like box mac and cheese, or they have like a very specific one. And like, I'll really eat any of it. Like I have my favorites. I have a definitive ranking system of box mac and cheeses because it's one of my safe foods, but it is one of my safe foods. So I will really just, if it's mac and cheese, I'm going to eat it. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad.
Yeah. Yeah. People look down on that mac and cheese, but you know what? It is its own uniquely delicious thing.
And there are ways you can like make it better. I saw a hack on TikTok of making like the powdered mac and cheese, make it more in like a hamburger helper style. So like you cook it in the water with the cheese and the milk, and it just makes it a lot better. But
sure, because then it's creamier. Yeah,
it's creamier, and you don't get that like powdery taste.
Yeah, and I've always been a fan of just like I just think of it as like noodles with like a cheese sauce. So I'm okay that it's a little runnier. And then like, also you leave it overnight in the fridge, and then like the noodles suck up all of that moisture anyways, and then they just become like cheesy flavored noodles, and I'm fine with that too.
Yeah. I'm like the leftovers are even better.
Yep. I'm fine with all of the above. So that's good. Thank you so much, Dallas, for doing this. I so appreciate it. And it was really nice getting to meet you.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you, listeners, for joining us for Queers and Quills, the official podcast. If you are already signed up to attend Queers and Quills, make sure to say hello to me and to Dallas at the Oregon Convention Center in May. And if you're not, follow Queers and Quills on Instagram to follow along with all the fun this year and get updates about ticket availability in the future. Until next time, I'm Kirt Graves, and I hope you're having a very gay day. Queers and Quills, the official podcast, is produced and hosted by Kirt Graves, in coordination with Mahogany Mail and Marley Valentine. All copyrighted material is shared with permission. Music and sound effects are licensed through Storyblocks Audio. All opinions shared are those of the individuals and do not reflect the positions or policies of any company or organization with which they happen to be associated.